Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but not good night. The intention of this video is to show you the first certificate reading exam, part 6, called gap text. These are the steps that we need to follow, so let's begin with the first one. Get general information from the introduction and title. As all the information we need to know about what the article is about is here. For example, the physical demands of the job. What job? Former ballet dancer, good preparation leads to success in ballet dancing. What ballet training actually involves. In other words, the physical demands in ballet training to become successful. After reading the introduction, some teachers advise their students to read the text. I personally disagree with this opinion because time is of the essence, and once you've read it and you are in gap 42, you have forgotten what was saying 37. So my advice is to look for linking devices in the sentences and general ideas, as the focus on this exercise is in text texture, cohesion, and coherence. If you want us to do it together, click pause and find linking devices in the sentences and general idea of each one in order to compare afterwards. Time to click. There are not many grammatical linking devices in this exercise, which is odd. We only have F, which is making reference to this. What does this refer to? Well, it will be said before the gap. And in E, even though the principle is not a linking device, but here it's comparing it to the gym. So due to its importance, I've underlined the principle in order to remember it. To get the main idea, what I do is underline the keywords and then express it in a simpler way for me to understand the meaning. Through endless tries, they control movement. The shoe offers support, but the real strength is in muscles. Technology takes away activity, so it is difficult for most people to imagine the activity that ballet dancers have. The technique may be extreme, but it's not dangerous. The principle is, as in the gym, pushing yourself to the limit to get the desired result. No one can avoid this, and it cannot be avoided because it is done from well-established members to the newest recruits, and it takes a decade to become an expert in any physical discipline. Remember, if there are not many linking devices in the sentences, there are going to be in the text. So, especially in this case, the third step becomes important because we have to analyze the text around each gap. This step is only for beginners due to the importance of the linking devices that are not only in the sentences, but also in the text. But if you are an advanced learner, then you do it in step 4. If you want us to do it together, click pause. In 37, we have this that we don't know right now what it's making reference to, but when there is a pronoun of this type, we always underline it. In 38, we have but, so they are going to contradict whatever is said in the gap, and this lengthy period is going to be mentioned also in the gap. Click pause again if we're doing it together. In 39, there's an emphasizer. So when there are emphasizers, it's important. In 40, there's an addition. It is also. In 41, it says in the same way. So it's making reference to a comparison. And in 42, there's a but. So they are going to contradict again whatever it says in the gap. And there's a pronoun they that we don't know who they are making reference to. So it will be also expressed in the gap. Because you see, we only focus on the grammatical aspect, not the meaning, okay? These steps that I've made reference to are the most important part of this exercise because we have the general information of what the text is about, we have the linking devices in the sentences and in the text, and we have the general ideas of each paragraph. But before we continue, we have to memorize linking devices and main idea. If you are ready to take the exam, this memorization should take 30 seconds. If you are a beginner, forget about the time, focus on the technique. Subtext part 2. We have already done the previous steps, 1, 2, and 3, and now we are doing number 4. Match the options to the gaps. Here are the sentences underlined, and let's begin with 37. The first thing we do is analyze what's before and after the gap, and underlining the keywords that are giving you sense to the meaning. Once this is done, we connect it to the sentences. Slay. As the gap is in the second paragraph, we read this quickly. And then it's here when we stop. As a former dancer in the Royal Ballet Company here in Britain, I would beg to question this. Okay, what is this making reference? It's got to be previously said. So it's telling us that the answer is in the first paragraph. In this case, it's talking about the ideas that people have of dancers spending every waking hour in pain, bodies at breaking point, and their smiles being only pretense. In other words, in constant pain. When she says, I would beg to question this, we already know that she's going to say the contrary meaning that is implied here. There's a sentence that we have memorized which mentions that the activity that they do is extreme but not dangerous. So let's see if it would fit. So now comparing it to the text, it is saying that it is dangerous, the technique that they have and that they are in continuous pain. So for the moment, it fits. Afterwards, she makes reference to why it is not dangerous, because there are expert teaching and daily practice that makes it possible to be done within the capacity of a human body. So there's no breaking bones or anything that is mentioned here. So D would be correct because it fits perfectly. Let's go to 38. She mentions that she took her first lesson at the age of 7 and that it starts at an early age because it has to. And there's a but which is going to contradict, and here is mentioned this lengthy period. So there is a sentence that is making reference to a period of time, which was a decade. So let's see if it fits in the context. It takes at least a decade of high quality regular practice to become an expert in any physical discipline. Which is correct because it's giving you the explanation of why it has to begin at an early age. because it's followed by but. For a ballet dancer, they have to become an expert before the adolescence, and therefore they've got to begin very early. So there is grammatical and semantical connection. It's correct. Exercise 39. General idea around the gap is that the ballet classes have been the same more or less since 1920, and it's the same in any country. And then they give you a typical exercise that they've been doing it all this time, and it hasn't changed, and it's in every country. So they're giving you an example. It's followed by an even, and leading dancers have to do it. What do they have to do? Well, it can be something placed here or making reference to this. There was a sentence in which it was telling us that something that we didn't know what it was had to be done from well-established member to newest recruits. So let's see if that exercise fits the gap. So when we see no one avoids this, it's making reference to the activity that they placed as an example, and it's done by well-established members, the newest recruits, and by leading dancers too. So it fits grammatically and semantically. It's correct. Exercise 4. Practice makes perfect, and then there's an addition making reference to the same. This daily repetition that is to not only warm but improve the technique. There was a sentence we had memorized making reference to through endless try, they learn to control the movement. Let's see if it fits. Through endless tries at the usual exercise. And here it's mentioning daily repetition. This also is giving us the benefit of this daily repetition. In A, it's because they develop the neural pathways in the brain necessary to control movement. After the gap, due to also, they give you another one. Enables to strengthen the muscles required in jumping, spinning, or lifting legs to impossible angles to the average person. So it's grammatically and semantically connected. It's correct. Exercise 41A. Just reading in the same way, there was a sentence in which there was a comparison related to the gym. So I immediately go to that one. The principle is identical in the gym. Pushing yourself to the limit, but not beyond, will eventually bring the desired result. See, the human body is designed to adapt to the demands if it's done carefully and over time. The same idea is in E, because in the gym you push yourself to the limit. Here is first mentioned in a general way after making reference to the gym, and then they are going to connect it to the ballet lessons. If pushing you to the limit, you will get the desired result. The same happens in ballet. With all those years of classes, you are going to become a dancing machine. So again, it fits grammatically and semantically. Let's go to 42. Let's analyze the text above and below the gap. And below it says that the fluency doesn't hurt, it feels good. And after 42, but the contrary of what is going to be said, there's a they that we don't know who it is, should not be misled. There's a difference between hard work and hardship. This is the typical exercise that nothing comes to your mind. So you've got to go one by one to see which fits the gap. Once analyzed all of them, the one that fits best is the following. As technology takes away activities from the lives of many, perhaps the ballet dancer's physicality is ever more difficult for most people to imagine. The first grammatical connection, they, is expressed here by most people. So there's a grammatical connection there, but has to contradict the idea. An idea is that for most people it's difficult to imagine the level of physical activity that ballet dancers do. But they should not be misled, pero no deben ser engañados. Hay una diferencia entre trabajo duro y sufrimiento. Again, grammatical and semantical connection. C is correct. So, as you see, the key of doing this exercise correctly is the linking devices and the general ideas. And due to its importance, the introduction of the gap text is in 2 videos. The first one making reference to the most important steps. If you do not dominate the techniques explained in the first video, matching the options to the gaps, which is in the second video, is going to be confusing. Hope I've helped you to understand the reasoning behind this gap text. And as I always say, is theory important? Of course it is, but practice is essential in order to make all the possible mistakes practicing, so we do not make them during the official exam. Bye bye.